Welcome back to Be Lifted Up, your guide to living an abundant life. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. here with DC Marshall, and we're talking to the inimitable Dr. Cindy Trimm. Dr. Trimm, I think you made some great points around your experiences and the mindset you adopted earlier in life that speaks to a very important topic when we talk about resilience, and that is self-awareness.
Wow.
This idea of kind of knowing who you are, what you have to offer, what you have to contribute. And once you kind of have that self-awareness, you become more inwardly thinking in terms of your impact outward, as opposed to just feeling your outward circumstances determine who you are. Kind of go deeper into that as an essential element of resilience, whether you achieve that self-awareness as an 8-year-old or a 17-year-old, or maybe you haven't achieved it, but it's still not too late for you to strive for that sense of self-awareness as you're, looking at the opportunities and the challenges that you're facing today.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do this in quick sound bites. So we're talking about self-mastery and we're talking about self-care. So self-mastery has about 7 different dimensions, and I give you the greatest and quickest definition. It starts with self-awareness. Self-awareness is knowing where you start and someone else ends. And it's all about personal boundaries. And I think the greatest challenge in life is to be your own person and to take ownership for who you are and to live your life. It's your life. Nobody else is going to live it for you. But we talk about self-mastery, but how can you master a self that you don't know? That takes me to the next, and that's self-knowledge. You've got to stop living as a stranger to yourself. Start asking the deep and bold question, who am I? And then have the courage to discover it. Go find out who you are. And life has a way of offering you a mirror by offering you a crisis or a problem. And that mirrors or potential that is unborn to time. The next one is self-approval. Do you love yourself? Do you approve yourself? So many people walk around with an imposter syndrome, filled with insecurity. They're gifted, they're talented, but they know the pain of rejection. And so if you live in a world that teaches you that other people are bigger and better and greater than you, then you learn how to reject yourself. And I think, there's this quote that I absolutely love, and it talks about the whole idea of knowledge. And it says that if you can control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his action. And when you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. And if you make a man feel that he is inferior, you do not have to compel him to accept the inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you make a man think that he is unjustly an outcast, you do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told. And if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. And that's the miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Wilson. And I remembered that. So self-approval simply means that you give yourself permission to be unapologetically you. You approve yourself. You approve your dreams. You talk to yourself. You say to yourself, I'm enough. I'm great. I have something to contribute to this world. It's going beyond self-knowledge. And you say, I'm good enough. I'm great enough. I deserve to have better. This self-approval. The next one is self-respect. And when you have self-respect, you don't undermine your own greatness. You get rid of, habits that does not reflect the next best version of yourself. And then you have the courage to change, to evolve based on your understanding of what your potential and purpose is. And if you really don't understand what your potential and purpose is and how great you are, look at the things that offend you, what people say about you or how people reject you. That's usually a sign that I deserve to be treated better. I deserve to live better, to have better. So just flip it and don't become a victim. The next one is self-care. And we talk about self-mastery, we talk about self-care, but that's investing in yourself. Everyone should have a line item on their discretionary budget for self-care. We have a line item for cell phones, for cars and homes, but what about self-care? And that's where you love yourself enough to to stop putting yourself last, for caring about and maximizing your potential, your mental health, your physical health. And you build strategies around that by building a vision for yourself. And I always say it starts with the 6 R's: routine, rituals, rejuvenation, rest. You got to get rest and all of that. And then the last 2 is self actualization that you have to get involved with. And that evolves from out of self-discipline. And without self-discipline, you will undermine your future success. And I try to say it as quick as I possibly can, and I hope I remembered all 7.
No, I think you did. That was a great framework for the rest of our conversation. I'm struck by the last thing you said about self-discipline. The pastor of my church preached on the difference between being stubborn and being disciplined this past Sunday. And he said, if you're acting on your feelings, you're being stubborn. Because your feelings are driving your behaviors, when it really shouldn't be that, because your feelings fluctuate and change. If you're acting in your faith, that's being disciplined, because you're believing in something that's stable and that doesn't change. And it was a mind-blowing thing for me to even look at my decisions in my career, decisions in my relationships with my family, and you're approaching life in general, and certainly about being resilient. And I could look at the stock market going down and then react to my feelings, or I can say, yeah, the stock market goes down, prices go up and down, credit scores go up and down. That doesn't necessarily mean that I should be responding to that from a feeling standpoint. So that idea of self-discipline in particular really strikes a chord with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As long as we feel that our lives are in the hands of someone else, we will undermine our own self-efficacy. In other words, when God created us, He created us with a drive, an instinct for living. Nobody wants to die, And if we can tap into that instinct to live, we can bring life to dead situations, dead dreams, to dead faith, knowing that, this is God's will for our lives. God's will is for us to be successful, for us to live with abundance, for us to prosper. And we have to believe that, but nobody's going to do that for you. There's a scripture that says God will multiply you 1,000 times more, even as you are, not as you have. So we're already trillionaires. We just don't have the money to prove it yet. And He gives you the power to create wealth, but power is always given in potential form, and it has to be exercised.
Excellent. Dee?
I don't even know what to say at this point. I'm just thinking, listen, I've been a student of Dr. Trimm for, I think since I met you. In fact, it was probably before that. So it's been at least 10 years. And so I'll tell you what dots I'm connecting right now. And I'm just remembering, I think a core part of who I've become from a self-efficacy perspective in terms of routine,
yes,
habit, and discipline was as a result of you snatching my edges and calling me out in your book, Command Your Morning. Snatching my edges. It was life-changing, that tiny little book, because I'm remembering that something about you will always have perpetual cycles of defeat wherever there is an absence of routine and rituals and order. And so I'm connecting that from your book, the impact to my life, and even resiliency. Dr. Trimm, in your book, Commanding Your Morning, the piece in your book about like order and structure. I know you've written several books since then, but that's the book I'm stuck on, and that I love, because it answered a question, I think, for people of God, like people of faith. Oh, we only have 30 seconds. All right. People of faith. And that is that everything is not the devil. No, the enemy is not busy. And if he busy, how you know? Y'all talking? No, it's not that deep and it's not that serious. This is really about you getting your house in order. And so we're going to go to break and then we're going to come back on the other side. Everybody, this is Be Lifted Up, your guide to living an abundant life. And we'll be right back.